Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Back to Basics session. My name is Nihal Samra. I'm the General Counsel and Legal Director here at Kaizen Synergy Law Firm, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's session. Today's session focuses on how to add a new user and how to update a user's information. So, for example, if a staff member leaves, how do you update that person's profiles? What do you need to do? Also, if you need to add a new user to your Gemba system, whether it be a staff member, a volunteer, or the likes, a board member, how do you actually do that? So I'm just going to spend a few minutes today and walk you through how you actually do this and how easy it actually is. So first of all, let's just log into the Gemba dashboard. When you do that, what you'll see is this screen here. Now, from here, remember that there is no limits on the number of people that you can actually add into your Gemba dashboard. We have set it up specifically this way so that the number of users on your system is literally unlimited. So you can add all of your staff, all of your volunteers, all of your members, contractors that you might use from time to time, committee of management or board of directors, however you call it, as well as your members, and give all of them access to your Gemba dashboard. So let's find out how we actually do this. Well, quite simply, what we need to do is add a new position. And how we do that is simply go to the menu bar and click on Add a New Position. Now, I'm just going to create a new receptionist. So let's say I've got a new receptionist that I'm creating a position for. So in this case, I'm just going to type in receptionist and I'm going to click on Save. And you can see that that position is added. Now I can see on the chat groups already that people have said, why do we add a new position first? Why is that actually important? Now, quite simply, why that is important is for this reason here. Every person that's added to your Gemba dashboard, like in real life, they have a position that's affiliated with your agency. So it might be a staff member, like I just said, a receptionist. So you're creating that position to connect them or attach to the user. Same thing is if you have a volunteer as well. A volunteer might provide different services from time to time. So a person might volunteer for your agency, which is great. So in the same way, all you need to do is create the position volunteer. Now, after we do that, what we're going to do is add a new user. Quite simply, when you click over to the menu bar and you click on Add a New User, this screen will come up. Right. Now, we're going to add in the person's first name. So I'm just going to create a person, a made-up person, and I'm going to call this person Frederic. Oops, here we go. Frederico. And Frederico, and I'm going to call it Funstone for Fred Flintstone. And now we're going to ask also, so we're going to add in first name, surname. We're going to create the email address as well too. So let me just say it is his first name, and it can be whatever email address that you want to use. And this is just for demonstration purposes, okay? So the email address is going to become that person's username. And that's why the username doesn't appear here. What it's also going to ask you is what is the position that we had. Now, I've just created the position receptionist, so that's why that comes up. What you will find is that all of the vacant positions appear in this drop-down list. So any vacant positions that are in your agency will appear here. The next one is HR role. Now, in this case, Federico is an employee, but you can see this also gives me the list here, what type of HR role they might have. So in this case, there might be an employee. What you will see is that once I create a position here, it will also create a profile in that person's HR system as well too. Now, the next question that it'll ask me, is this person a standard user or a site admin? Well, in this case, we're just going to leave this person as a standard user. Now, all I need to do is simply go down to the bottom and click Save Changes. And what comes up is that it will return me to the user management screen. Now, from here, if I wanted to give Federico the profile, I can simply go into Federico's profile. You can see it here, and it gives me the list of users, and I can set the password for Federico. So in this case, I'm just going to make it, let me have a look. I'll just make it nice and simple. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, but you can make it anything you like. Now, what happens is once I actually mark this password and confirm it and click on save, Fred will automatically receive an email notification with the login details, password, and link to Gemba as well. Okay. Now, the other thing that I will add is when we go into, now that we've set Fred's profile up, what we do need to do is to go into the organization profile and look at two things. The first thing that we need to look at is the reporting matrix. So when I go into the reporting matrix, it brings up a list of all the users, and I'm going to go to the position. And I can see here that we've added a couple of receptionists. And here we are here. Federico, I'm going to say reports to. And in this case, I'm going to just make it let me pick Dino. So Federico reports to Dino as the compliance assistant. So let's say that was the case, but it might be whoever that person reports to in your agency. So I've added in the Federico's new profile. I've also said who Fred reports to. Now what I'm also going to look at, if I go back, is what teams Fred looks at. Now, when I go into the organization profile, I can go to groups and teams. And let's say I want to add Fred to or make sure that Fred is in the all staff team. Here it is here. And I'm going to click on save. Okay. And what that'll do is simply add Fred as the receptionist. Here we are here to the all staff team. Now, let's go back one step. So now that I've created Fred as Fred's profile, I've added him to the teams. It also means that by adding him to the all staff team, that when Fred logs in to the dashboard, especially into the Gemba docs, then what Fred will actually see, quite simply, is the read-only permissions for actually all of Fred's profiles only. Okay, so what I'm going to actually look at is to say, right, we know that by adding Fred directly to by adding Fred only to the all staff team means that he'll only have read-only access to actually the policies registers only, because that's what we have in the Gemba docs area, and Fred won't have any other access at all to anything else whatsoever. So that's exactly what we want to see. Now, let's actually log in and log out and see how that looks, okay? So let me go back into the Gemba dashboard. I'm going to bring up, in this case, Fred's profile. And what we're going to do is actually log in as Fred and see how this all looks. So let me go to the user profile. And we're going to log in as Fred. And then what we're going to do after this is to actually look at how it actually changes. Let's say Fred moves on, and where do we go from here? Okay. So what we're going to do, let me just bring this up for us here, and we'll have a look to see how this looks as well. Now, one of the questions that people do ask us is what happens when we actually update the profiles? How does this actually look, and where does this actually go to? So let me just bring this up for you and we'll actually go through and see how this actually looks for yourselves. And we're just going to log in as Fred, and then we're going to watch to see how this all looks from our end. And I'm just going to bring up a couple of other profiles just to see how this all looks. And we can then actually have a look at actually updating some of the other profile information as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up Fred's profile and click on log in. And let's have a look to see how this looks from our end. So what I'm going to do is grab Fred's profile information. We are then going to go into Fred Rico's. Here we are here. We're just going to check his password, 123, 123. And let's have a look to see how this looks. So from here, all we do is simply go back. We log out of the system. We're just going to go log back in as Fred. All right. And what we see now is that Federico Funstone is on this profile and is now listed as the receptionist as well too. When we go into the profile of the gemba360, what I can see is that Fred has actually inherited the read-only access for the policies and procedures. Now, what I was going to show you as well too, if I just log back in, and I will just do this for you, is that under the administrator profiles of the system, and this is our demo site, is that we can see that under Fred's profile, Fred has only access to 2 particular folders, and it's only read only. If I go into the compliance manager's profile and I'll look at gemba360, I can actually see that we've got a whole bunch of other folders and documents that are listed here as well too. So there are a whole range of different folders that we can now see on it. Now, what happens? What happens if Fred decides to move on and somebody else has actually taken up this role and this position? Well, you can see now that I've got a few notices that were sitting here on the right-hand side. I've got the gemba360 side. So what we're going to do is now look at what do we do if Fred moves on. So if Fred moves on, what we do as an administrator is first of all, log back into the system. I can see that I've got this profile here. What I'm going to do is go to the user management profile. If Fred moves on, then quite simply, I go to Federico, here it is here, and do 2 things from here. The first thing that I need to do is simply go to this particular position drop-down and select unassigned. Why do I do that? Well, quite simply, Fred has now left your agency. The position is now vacant. So that's why we now list it as unassigned. And with it, we then mark this user as ceased. And so that means that he's no longer, in this case, in the organizational chart. And more importantly, also doesn't have access to your Gemba system. Okay. Now, if I wanted to then say, right, let's add a new user back to this particular and fill this reception position. So let's say Barney has now come in to this and fill this position. Well, all I'm going to do is simply click on add a new user and it'll bring up this screen. Barney now comes in and we will say that it's Barney Rubillo. And Barney now has the email address Barney R. Rubillo at gemba360.com. Okay. What we then do is select the position back, mark that it's been an employee that's now joined, standard user, and what we then have is this position filled. Now I go through the same process again. I then go to Barney's Rubillo. I'm now going to set his access. So I'm going to set Barney's position and let's make it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And Barney's now got access to the system. Now, what I did want to show you though is last time we did this, we went in to the organization profile and had a look at the positions and we set this up for Fred, if you remember. Now, the difference here is the position has already been set. And if you remember, Fred already reported under his role to Dino. So now when we go back to the reporting matrix, we have simply refilled this position. So I simply go to the receptionist. If I go and check this out, you can see the receptionist has now changed from Fred to Barney. But we don't need to change this because the position of the receptionist still reports to the compliance assistant, Dino, who we selected last time. So that's all been done. You will also find that if I go back into the groups and teams and click on all staff, then the receptionist position again too, as well, we don't need to change anything because Gemba is based on a person's position, not the user. So what I mean by that, and you can see this here, Fred left, Barney's now filling Fred's position, and it also then means that anything that we've seen from the permission levels previously, Barney now fills into that role. But the difference here is that Barney now fills Fred's position and Fred has moved on and Fred doesn't have access to that particular Gemba dashboard. And so with it, if we go and log back out and let's say I log in as Barney and show you what that looks like, you will find that Barney has exactly the same permission levels that Fred had before. And so when we log in, here we go here, and I now go to the Gemba docs. Ta-da! It's exactly the same profile that Fred had before. It means then that as you go through, and what we've done here is update or add a new user into the system. We've stopped and ceased Fred from accessing it because Fred's moved on, and now fill the position again too. And really, it is as simple as that in terms of adding and updating users. You can literally add in as many users as you want into the system. It is simply unlimited. I have just been asked a couple of questions here, which I do think is relevant for today's session, and I will add to this now. And one of those is, can we actually bulk upload users into the system? And the short answer is yes. Someone's also then just asked, how do we update a person's name, or actually if they've changed their name, but not their email and position? Well, let me do that for you right now. So to answer your questions, first of all, on how do you actually, if you wanted to upload a large number of users? Well, If you're an admin user, you can simply go to add a new user, or actually even user management. And you'll see there's a button here that says upload users in batch. So this is where you can actually pull down an Excel file if you need to. It will ask you for the columns username, password, first name, last name, email address, position, whether they're an admin or active user, and whether you also wanted the system to automatically send out an email. So there is a template here that you can use. Excuse me, just going back onto my user profile. There is a template that you can use. Here we are here. And you can also review before saving as well too. So we do have the review before saving, so that way you can view it on the screen before you actually upload it as well. Now, the other question that somebody just asked me was, how do you update a person's name? So for example, if they have taken their partner's names, or they've changed back to their name. So under user management, you can simply go to here. Let me grab one. We've got Katerina Aston is a demo one that we have here. So let's say we were just updating Katerina's email, and let's say it was made to -Smith, for example, was her new name. So it would be Ashton-Smith, and there is no change in the email address. Well, I can just update this directly from here, and I can click Save Changes. Now, what that means is that you can now see that Katerina's surname has changed, and that's then been updated from here. Now, what happens if Kate has changed her position? How do you update that? Well, in this case, you can simply go to Position Management, and we have it here, and let me just bring up Katerina's position. And let's say Katerina is now known as the acting General Services Manager. So all I need to do is change it as acting General Services Manager. Okay. And I claim that and update that. And again, once I go into the user management profile, here it is here. Ta-da, it's now done. So you can see updating the user's profile in Gemba is literally that simple to actually do. It can all be done under the menu bar. The easiest way to do this is to create the new positions. Think of how it actually works in real life. You'll have a position that is vacant, or you'll have a position that's filled. People will then be added to that position, and that is probably the biggest difference in Gemba that you need to actually complete it as well. So happy to stay online and answer any questions that people might have. If there's no other questions, thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be running through further training sessions every Monday now for the full financial year period as well too. Next week's session is going to be on setting up your organization profile, which is listed under your menu bar, which you can see here on the right hand side. And this will do things like drive your compliance calendar and also legal updates as well. As I said, thank you everyone for joining us today. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.